This is a photograph I took, let's get the light off of it, near Carnac in Morbihan in Brittany some years ago. I just love the contrast between the dark trees on the horizon with some little cottages and houses, and the expanse of sand with some lovely reflections on the tidal pools, so low tide, and the grasses, the marram grass or marsh grass at the bottom of the picture. I haven't got this in digital, it's an analog photograph, so it's the best I can do. I've done a bit of a sketch of it here, and I've used just a little bit of masking fluid just to leave some white areas for houses. I've probably done them a little bit too big, but we'll see how we go. So we've got a big sky here, so we'll wet the paper all over. So I'll just cover up my computer, otherwise that gets soaking wet. Not quite so warm today. It's been very warm late, and the paper's been doing all sorts of funny things. The paper I'm using is Fabriano from Art Discount, Granthams, 100 cheap blocks. I don't get paid for saying that. It's just what I've got this off Steve Cronin. He discovered this this supplier. It's the marvellous quantity for the money, £30 for 100 sheets. And I've so far this year I've bought 400 sheets. I'm halfway through it, but it's really good for wetting wet. And you can, at that price, you can afford to have a few casualties, but you can always paint on the other side. And the thing about wetting the paper first is that it expands, and you can re-stretch it to keep it flat. Well, that's the idea anyway. There we go. Right, now a decent sky on this. So as usual, just go over with raw sienna and a bit of yellow in it. Let's get that all in nicely. Just to tint the paper. And I'm using burnt umber, a bit of raw sienna, just to do the sand. And I want that a bit lighter there, so. Okay, now we'll get in with a bit of a sky. What's nice and red, I want a nice rich blue for bits of the sky. Mix a bit of alizarin. Not too wet because there's enough water on the paper. And then we can get some clouds. Light red. Light red and ultramarine. Nice and dark. There are loads of ways of making greys for clouds. You can use alizarin and Payne's grey, burnt umber and ultramarine. Burnt umber and burnt sienna. Got a bit blended there. Let's just clean it off a bit. Right, I'm I'm letting that dry off a little bit before I put in my background. It's a lovely area, Brittany, South Brittany, near Van, near the city, the walled city of Van. Very beautiful, very lovely, almost Cornish. A lot of the names there are very similar to place names in Cornwall. Bretons. They have their own style of music, their own flag, like Cornwall. But we've had some lovely holidays there with our trader tents. And this is not very far from that superb megalithic site in Carnac. It's huge. It's not on the scale of Stonehenge. The menhirs are much smaller, but it's spread out over a large area. And in Carnac they have a superb market in the town every Saturday. I think every Wednesday. Can't remember now. Great place for oysters. And just a great place for family holidays. Right, we'll stretch that a bit more now. I'm letting that dry a little bit before I go on with my background. I don't want it to bleed too much into underneath here. You see now, all that water that's gone on that paper, it's all pretty flat. I'm just cleaning off the excess water at the bottom here. Otherwise it tends to cauliflower up, and I don't really like that. This cloud might be a little bit heavy, but I don't really like to lift out with because you've got all this lovely blending and merging an atmosphere with the wet paper and the way the paint behaves on the wet paper. I'm not a lover of then going on with a tissue and blotting the lighter areas out, because it looks so mechanical, in my opinion. Others use it to great effect. But while that's just drying off, I'll tell you about my favourite watercolour painters that I've learnt so much from. Obviously Ron Ranson and his big brush watercolour. That was where all this hake business came from about 30 years ago. but before that time, or even at that time, the Edward Weston, if you can get hold of his books or borrow them from a library, the 3 or 4 books on Edward Weston. I did see a demonstration at my art club years ago before he died, I believe. I didn't know who he was then. I do now. Wonderful watercolour painter, and he used the French squirrel mop. And I bought this, I think, in that area, some art shop. Weston made it look easy. Roland Hilder, one of our greatest watercolour painters, who's dead now, specialised mainly in Kent Oast House scenes. Beautiful, incredible watercolours, and he used a lot of ink, a lot of line and wash, a lot of black ink with a brush on his watercolours, and by the time you put the paint on top, it lessened the intensity of the black-white contrast. Used it to great effect. And of course, probably our greatest landscape painter outside Constable and Turner is Edward Seago, who died, I think, 1968 or 1972, I can't remember. He made it look as if you could do it, but it was a lifetime of study, and practice went into his beautiful paintings. Beautiful limpid washes, they're just absolutely glorious. They glow. And you'll see occasional exhibitions of his work in London. He didn't get any recognition by the art establishment. Right, I'm mixing up a green with ultramarine, burnt sienna, because I want it dark. Right, okay, so we'll just start putting those trees in, and that comes across there. I'm quiet now because I want to get this in on concentration because my brush has just gone a bit astray there, so I'll have to... Right, okay, let's go back with the dark green. I'm modifying the blue and the yellow with the burnt sienna. You can also use light red for this. Leave some sky holes. It's a bit dry. When this is dry, I can rub the masking fluid off. Darker now. You could, the light red is a good substitute for the burnt sienna. Right, let's just get that edge in there. Right. Now, there is part of Morbihan Bay showing behind that, further on around the coast towards Lorient. But we'll just show that as a blue. When I say blue, I mean blue and modified with burnt sienna. And light, quite light. Right, I need to push my tray in and let's go across here now. Right. Quite straight there, quite straight edge. And just screw it up. I want to leave a little bit of a gap there. Maybe I could use my flat brush. That's better. Right, now when that's drying, I can go in with my colours now. It's yellowy burnt umber and a bit of lemon yellow mixed in with that sand. Because there's a lot of seaweedy stuff on the rocks in this foreshore here. So let's just go in. Look, hairs. That. And we'll leave some lots of sparkle in there for some water. Right. Just down there. Nice blue in there. And then we've got, let's bring that down there. Right, now there's a big piece of blue here. I think I should put that in before I go further with this. burnt sienna again. Quite faint, but I want it to look blue. But I'm going to come down here more, but I want to put these in when I remember them. Otherwise I'll get carried away with the sand and there won't be enough room for these. Right. Nice and light there. Bit bluer there.
I just am not comfortable. I'm never comfortable with people who sound enthusiastic about hitting children. Forgive me. I would never wish to hit my child. No. You know, I don't want to do it. That's worse. Because you're saying other people's children need to be hitting them, but not.
These are just little rock pools, and I'm going to put a lot of seaweedy stuff in there. Right, now let's get in with this here. Let's just put some pools back in there.
But it's a leap from that to kids aren't afraid of anyone or anything. Just, I don't know, that doesn't sound helpful. And then to dive into the punishment cliche, maybe it is that simple. Maybe it is that simple. I wonder if it sounds as though they're a disservice to primary school teachers by suggesting
The beach is going across here, so put that in. The beach is like quite a bright sienna. Right, okay. Right, it's coming on, coming on. I'll just let that dry off a bit now. I can hasten that process with my little hairdryer. Now for some marsh grass. For that I'm going to use blue, lemon yellow, bit of raw sienna, okay, nice and thick. Some darker green in there. Not dark enough there yet. I don't want to use Payne's Grey on this. I want to just use my natural, well, I tend to think if I resort to Payne's Grey I'm getting desperate. But it's always there as a great shortcut, so let's not underestimate it. Some people love it. I'm trying to get away from it. I find it does deaden And there are plenty of ways of mixing darks without recourse to paints. That isn't to say you can't use it. I do use it. But I want. I've got some reds in there too, and neat, almost neat. Light red, sienna, just to warm up the foreground so that it makes it look as if it's closer to you. Really thick now. Now you can use a regular on there if you wish. But don't overdo this. These grasses are very fine. Very few hard grass, thick trunky grasses. That might not really show up on the video, but I can, as that dries, I'll go in with some darker. Right, now we've got a bit of burnt umber now. And with a mix, you get a nice dark with that. Ultramarine. I want to cover all this blue up, but some of it I'll have to. Showing these bits of rock. This is all shorthand really for doing as little actual calligraphy as possible. Nice, good dark bit there. Let's just fuck that off. I'm going to go over that with some bits of grey. The roofs here are, I remember, are predominantly slate. Right, do some figures on there now. So we get them in scale. They're quite small because otherwise if I do them too big that would be out of scale. But the smallness just mix up some. Over here. Don't really want to overdo the people here. Right, now with my little half-inch flat, I'll just put in some very, very light grey. No, I'm going to leave that. If anything, the house is just a little too big, but I quite like that. I'm not unhappy with it. Right, let's see what that looks like in a mount. There's the picture of it anyway. Lovely scene. Typical Breton. Oops. Very simple little scene. There we are. Can't remember whether this was at Loch Mariaker, bad French accent, but it's a typical South Brittany scene with a sort of slightly rocky foreshore, but with these buildings on the low rocks. This is a rocky, seaweedy covered sort of thing here. Let's just zoom into that a bit and take you around. So it's just a lot of stuff really, isn't it? The sky has come out quite well. Okay, well let's just zoom out of that again. I wonder if my camera's too high. It's all very experimental, this. Right, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Bye for now.